be able to commence its business. Part of the business that the members are continuing to transact is a consideration on the State of the Nation address speech that was delivered in Parliament by the President of the Republic of Kenya. Today will be marking day 3. Debate on that particular address, as provided for, should be concluded within 4 days. The debate began in yesterday's afternoon sitting.
Proceed. First order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Deputy Majority Whip.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 26, 2024, morning sitting. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statement for the years ended 30th June 2021, 30th.
3, the State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
A statement had been requested. Lunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order number 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Land regarding the implementation of a court order by the Environment and Land Court for compensation and land resettlement of the owners of Ramisi Phase 1, Block 5056, Kanana Nikabu in Kwale County. Honorable Speaker, Mkupuo Network Awareness, an nonpartisan community-based organization, represents the residents in occupation of Ramisi Phase 1, Block 5056, Kanana Nikabu in Kwale County. These residents have occupied the said land since pre-colonial times, having inherited the same land from their forefathers. In 2008, the government initiated a settlement scheme plan to formalize their occupation, which resulted in the issuance of offer letters to the residents. However, to date, no certificate of titles were issued. However, the residents were forcibly evicted and their structure demolished to facilitate occupation by MS Kwale International Sugar Company Limited, which had purportedly leased the land from the government. Honorable Speaker, the forced eviction meted out on the residents without compensation prompted the affected residents to file ELC petition number 43 of 2020 at the Environmental and Land Court in Kwale. The court ruled in favor and ordering that the government has an obligation to compensate and resettle the affected residents of the organization. The government was granted a period of 12 months to comply with the decree, which expired on 27 January 2024. Despite the lapse of the time frame, the government is yet to comply, causing undue hardship and suffering to the affected residents. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the following. 1, the measures in place by the Ministry of Lands, Public Works and Housing and Urban Development to comply with the decree of the court, considering the Mkupuo network awareness was to be compensated and its members resettled by 27th January 2024. Number 2, a report on the status of assessment made by the ministry to ensure all villages within Ramisi Phase 1 Block 5056 are duly concluded in the valuation report for compensation. And 3, an overview of the resettlement plan and the efforts that have been made to conduct awareness among the affected residents in their resettlements. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Chairperson for the Committee on Lands. How long will it take? Any member from the Lands Committee or Vice Chairperson? I think I'd leave it to you, Deputy Majority Whip.
Noted, Honorable Speaker, and they will give the report once we resume. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Debate on the President's address, day 3.
The Honorable Member for Gilgil, Honorable Martha Wangari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also record my thanks to the State of the Nation address by the President. And Madam Speaker, because I know we have limited time, I'll pick a few issues. And it does not have the interest of the nation. Madam Speaker, we have to change this, and we have to get to a point where every county can be able to process DNA samples to enable, to ensure that we have these culprits behind doors, behind bars, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue of gender-based violence. And that also applies to boys and men, Madam Speaker, that we also have safe spaces where they can report and talk about it, because the stigma is quite huge and it is associated by reporting any abuse meted on men or boys. Madam Speaker, that for me stood out. The other issue, Madam Speaker, is of course the economic growth. I hope that we can be able to translate this to the pockets of Kenyans so that they can feel what the President is talking about and not just percentages. That way we'll be able to feel, and we'll not need to say, even on the newspapers, we'll be able to feel and see members doing well and the public thriving, Madam Speaker. I thank you for that opportunity.
The Honorable John Mutunga, Member for Tigania.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to make a few comments on the presidential address. Honorable Speaker, this address comes subject to Article 132(1)(c), which basically articulates measures towards realization of national values, principles of governance in this country. Honorable Speaker, these are the values that are clearly outlined in Article 10 of the Constitution. And we can put them into 4 key clusters, one being the loyalty to the Republic, the second on promotion and protection of the rights of individuals, the third one as integrity, and the fourth one as development. Honorable Speaker, I would like to pick a few values and ask certain questions that Kenyans, on the extent to which Kenyans attest to these values. But just one, Honorable Speaker, in my understanding, is commitment to the nation's progress and sovereignty. The extent to which we commit ourselves is wanting, Honorable Speaker. Upholding sovereignty is important so that we may balance the freedoms and also the freedoms with public policy. Honorable Speaker, to what extent do individuals within this particular country aligned to patriotism How much progress have we made as a country? When a Kenyan is given an opportunity to express themselves, to what extent do we as Kenyans really talk about this country as our home and a place that we would like to live in? When you look at the media, to what extent is the media patriotic? Because most of the time you realize that they will criticize and not necessarily critique. Madam Speaker, the other issue is that the report itself cautions extensively on the role of the rule of law and constitutionalism. Madam Speaker, the national unity issue, to my understanding, is promoting cohesion and inclusivity. When we group ourselves along ethnic lines, are we actually expressing nationalism? Is that national unity? The reality is that to the large extent, Kenya is segmented into ethnic communities. How do we interpret national unity when we allow vernacular radios to take prominence in this particular country? And when any of us is aggrieved, you turn to the vernacular radio to try and express yourself. Madam Speaker, that's an issue we need to deal with as a country. We need to promote national unity, and the report addresses this particular issue at large. Sharing and the devolution of powers with respect to devolution itself. Equitable resource distribution has to do with reaching the people. How much has devolution been able to do this? Out of the 47 counties as devolved units, and the resources being sent to these devolved units, Honourable Speaker, we need to see a lot more of development so that we can say Kenya has really done the right thing in the terms of terms of addressing the issues of devolution. Honourable Speaker, when we look at the human dignity, the respect and the protection of every individual's rights and obligations, in this particular respect, Honourable Speaker, the immediate previous speaker has, honourable member, has attested to the gender-based violence and especially femicide, which the report covers extensively. Everyone deserves the right, not just the right to live in this country, right to engage without any form of intimidation, without any form of discrimination. Honourable Speaker, there should be no, we should be as Kenya as a country, as a people living together. We should always respect one another so that we can also be respected out in this city, which has to do with the fair distribution of resources, particularly to the marginalized groups. This country has made a lot of effort, and the report covers quite extensively on the effort that the government has done in consideration of the effort of ensuring that everyone is taken care of. Projects like the affordable housing program, which is distributed across the country, it has the constituency focus, which means every constituency is supposed to get their share. The ICT hubs are spread across the country, the NGCDF, the TVET, and others. Universities are now counted. Justice has been terribly misinterpreted, and the report is very particular on Article 27, the misinterpretation of Article 27, where picketing is interpreted to mean violence, which is not true. Inclusivity, Honourable Speaker, the provisions on inclusivity have also been articulated. Let me conclude by saying that equality has also been looked into very, very carefully in this particular report. We have spread projects across the country, looking at different areas to make sure that every part of this country is developing. We have looked at the employment and labor migration, which has also assisted people across the scope, and the Equalization Fund, which has also looked at the areas that actually were behind others in terms of development. And therefore, this report articulates exactly what's happening in this country and the progress that we're making, among others. Yes. And I
give you a minute.
Contract. Thank you very much.
Okay. The Honorable Member for Laikipia West, Wachira Karani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice to this speech by His Excellency the President. I will start by saying there are so many things that His Excellency the President talked about, but because of limitation of time, I will touch on a few. And I will say, we Kenyans, we have a funny way of looking at things. Whenever a new idea comes, we are used to opposing the new ideas without, first of all, giving it an opportunity. I remember in the year 2002, Madam Speaker, when the third president of this republic, the late Mwai Kibaki, came into power. He introduced through his minister then, Honorable John Michoki, the late, transport mode where a Nissan, a microbus, will be carrying 14 passengers. Before then, people are used to microbuses carrying even up to that passengers. Now, people, I remember, majority of Kenyans opposed it. They were told the matatus would be driving at 80 kilometers per hour because they used to drive at over 150. They opposed it. They were told we were going to use safety belts. Kenyans opposed it. But when eventually the land president stood firm on it through his minister, today every Kenyan enjoys it. So even now, we are in a similar situation. When the president took over the reign of this country in 2022, Madam Speaker, he found the country was in very big ruins. We had almost reached the ceiling for our
to give the picture of the country as it is and as we progress with all the matters that should now be considered towards making our country move forward and in a better way. First and foremost, the president highlighted several laws that are to be enacted for purposes of good governance in the country. I'm happy to report that some of those laws actually have already been considered by this House through the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. And what is outstanding, what is outstanding and what he spoke to is the Conflict of Interest Bill. This is a bill of the National Assembly that was passed here some time ago. It was then taken to the Senate, where several amendments were reintroduced, and eventually, since this House rejected those amendments, we have had to have a mediation. I confirm to this House that the mediation committee was established and actually started sittings yesterday, and we do undertake that by the close of business this week, we should have a mediated version of the Conflict of Interest Bill now coming back to the House for passing. The president also highlighted on case tracking systems and e-filing for the judiciary, and in fact lauded the judiciary as the leader in technology in the government. These are very important steps the judiciary has taken to ensure that parties are informed of their cases in time and that the filing is done timelessly. The net effect is that delivery of services in the judiciary is actually improving and has continued to improve, as a result of which we now have more cases being determined on an annual basis. Madam Speaker, you actually headed this when you were in the judiciary. The ICT system